even though there's hardly anyone here. Please, please, please speak into the microphones.
Thank you. Speak into the mic. Got it.
We'll
All right.
turn this one back and forth.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes as written. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Now, we're going to change the order here a little bit because Robert is here to talk to us about our meeting in June 16th and the mailing for that. And Nicole has designed the flyer, which you'll look at, but I wanted to give Robert the opportunity to tell us what he's.
Well, so the town is part of.
Do you want to come up here and speak into a microphone here? That would make it better. Sorry.
So the town is part of the community rating system program. So that's a FEMA program where you go through flood remediation type of actions, and ultimately it gives you it's sort of a rubric, point system, and it's evaluated every 5 years. And as with all programs of that sort of nature, you want to upkeep your existing score or improve it. And obviously, at some level, the benefits are keeping people informed and keeping appropriate documentation around flooding. But the sort of the carrot that's attached to this is that when you have an improving community score, it also some content, and that's not content that I would write or anyone on town staff. That's content that would be provided to us specifically by a company called Tetra Tech. There's a partnership between us, Shandaken CAC Water Management Program, and Tetra Tech to continue and improve our CRS rating. So they're working with us to make sure that we are on the up and up of this program. We're coming up on our 5-year renewal for this. And so we had a conversation, I believe it was last week, about how we can get enough points to potentially improve our CRS score in the next evaluation. And they said, well, hey, if you can get this information out to all of your residents, this will be a way of getting, I think it was a couple hundred points. So I don't have that specific language yet. We're working on it, working real hard on that. But the ask here is basically kind of if we can piggyback on your card. Now, the reason why this is very much a question is, when does this card need to go out? Basically, how much time do I have to get the right language and then have you guys work it into the design? Recognizing that if you need to use a bigger card, I think that's totally appropriate. Right?
How much information are you thinking it will be?
It's a bit more than that, but think.
Robert, this was the card that we did for.
I'm thinking that kind of text, like half your agenda, basically.
So
It could be rearranged as needed, but like think that number of words, right? Like maybe that's 60 words, 100 words, something like that. I don't have it, so if you can find room on that card.
well, the card has two sides. So one side could be our announcement, and the other side, if it fits in here, could be the text,
Works for me.
or some other kind of
Arranged as needed, yeah.
arrangement, yeah. This was the card that we used obviously for last May when we had the event at the visitor center. And this went out to everyone in town. We did a townwide mailing.
So I mean, like sort of two questions. The one is, are you willing to let us piggyback on your card? I'm getting a yes.
Yes.
The second question is, your event is really important to the town. Folks need to know about it. How much time do I have to get that text?
Well, the last time.
June 16th is the event.
What?
June 16th is the event.
Yes.
So if we work back from that, and considering what the post office is doing, we gave me
do you still need to design it and
No, I
print
mean,
it?
for mailing.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have it printed, we have to make the design change, get it approved, which should be pretty fast.
And
And
we
we had
have
to
to
go out.
prepare it for
Had it-
mailing.
If I got it to you before the end of this week,
End of this week, I think that would be good.
Oh, that would be.
if I could do, okay.
Yeah.
What if it was the end of next week?
I think that would work too. I think we can do it.
Okay.
Um,
If I can tell, you know, I think I can get it this week, but I can't.
Yeah.
If
I would say we'd want them to go out into the mail like about a month before, right?
A month is too far.
Really?
Well, we did that, yeah, because people lose them. They forget and they lose
Just
it.
so they can put it on their calendar though. like we're-
Well, we can do social media, we can do other announcements, but I remember when we did, well, I can look it up, and we can go through that after Robert leaves to get
Well, I'm happy to
what
sit
we
through a
did,
meeting, I'm not going.
what we did the last time.
Yeah.
Which, the preparation took a while. You know, counting, you have to count them all and put them in bundles.
Well, so 100% if I got to you before the end of this week, you could find a way to make that work.
Yeah.
And you could probably do it if it was the week after. You know, that's the
Yeah.
end of the month.
I think it's better, but yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I mean, I'm not writing this. It's a woman named Melissa from Tetra Tech.
Yeah.
We've been in communication. She said, well, I'll provide you this information. There's at least 6 bullet points that need to be hit. So I'm expecting kind of like 6 bullet point lines with a sentence-ish attached to each. That's what I'm hoping for. So, I mean, I'll get it to you as soon as possible, but obviously I don't want to just.
And the town will pay for it, obviously.
For the mailing, yeah. I mean, we're already gonna pay for your mailing, so, you know, again, I think that card is more than big enough, but if we needed a bigger card, it's fine. We'll pay for that, and like I said, this will actually save the town quite a bit of money, but the alternative is, we have to do a second mailing.
Yeah,
So,
it's the time.
it's the time that's tricky, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a bit, fortuitous insofar as we heard about this in advance of your thing here. It's just, I
Yeah.
would have liked to have heard about this maybe a couple weeks earlier than I actually did, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Well, I think it's very fortuitous.
Yeah, it works out. I mean,
Yeah. If we can help,
and there's obvious alignment between the program you're doing and the information that we're hoping to provide, right? This is still flood related, it's still, in fact, a large part, the reason why they give us points for this is because it's intending to inform members of the town that the town has flood maps and the town does have floodplain permits and, you know, it's the other features of the CRS program pertaining to flood planning, flood mitigation, the design and development, you know, all of the things that are attached to this. So it's apropos, it's germane to your project.
do you think the guy from Tetra Tech wants to come and just give a 5-minute spiel?
Our main contact, Melissa, probably not. To be fair, their role is very much of the sort of technical assistance variety. The folks who would probably speak most appropriately about the COS one, you actually speak, it's Heidi. Yeah, because I mean, Heidi is at all of these meetings, but also like, they're very specific to how does a municipality get points with the CRS program?
Yeah.
That information is pretty arcane for your average person, because it's not the quality of information, it's do you have the document, have you filled out the form correctly, right? Like it's pretty pedantic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I shouldn't speak for her, but I don't think she's the right person for a public.
No, I understand. I just wanted to make sure that we hit the bullet points that we need to hit, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, your program in general is fantastic. I think it's important regardless of CRS.
Yeah.
But, and again, Heidi is the main kind of point person
Okay.
at county environment and then Ashoka Street Management Program. So you've got the right people at the meeting anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say, maybe we could do a mock-up of the card, like, play around with, formatting, just to, like, put some bullet points, just to kind of see, or can you do it, you can wait till the
Yeah,
last
I can do it.
I'll
Yeah.
get you the text as soon as I can. I was really hoping to have it today,
Yeah.
because she said she'd have to meet today on Friday, but it's today and I don't have it, so.
And then just anything else that has to go on the side of the card.
Well, on this side of the card, we have to have that and this.
Can I take this?
Yes,
Okay.
and this. I don't care about these things.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
I just want to ask you one quick question. You got the money to buy the electric vehicle. Has there been any discussion about that?
Yes, so the source of this funds was from the NYSERDA Clean Energy Awards,
Yeah.
and obviously got the 50,000 award. And when we received it, because of the amount, the process is a little bit more complicated than for some of the smaller ones. The smaller ones, you pretty much just say, we're gonna do this, then they send you the money, and frankly, it's just on faith that you actually do it. We have, but there's not a lot of, because this is the 50,000 award, you have to show like a bill, or like an invoice ahead of time, and there's a little bit more of an approval process. So how we had originally written is that we would seek a Rivian. The current costs of Rivians are more in the $74,000, $75,000 area. Obviously, the award is $50,000, and so we said, okay, that's viable, but we can make a change to that contract. Maybe we would be better off looking at a vehicle that's a little bit closer to the award amount. So right now, the Highway Department Secretary has reached out to a handful of car vendors and said, what's your closest electric vehicle to, not specifically to a Rivian, but the car that you buy, the electric car that you buy, is intended to replace a town vehicle, and a town gas vehicle, obviously, and the town gas vehicle is a Tahoe. And so it's basically, what is the electric car that you have that is the most similar to a Tahoe, that is the closest in price to 50,000?
Okay.
And we're waiting on those responses. And to be fair, some of those responses may have been received, I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
But that's what we're waiting on. My expectation is that we'll get an X, and we'll get a quote for an X. We'll then take that quote, go to NYSERDA, amend the contract to be, well, actually not a Rivian, it's actually gonna be an X. Then we'll have that bill of sale, we'll be able to get their approval and then go through the purchase. So keep nagging, please. Please remind it, but there is
Yeah.
a process.
And the EV charging
So
installation, any
the,
dates for that?
I don't have dates. We signed the contracts with the providers.
Yep.
So there might be dates, but I wouldn't know them, or don't know them.
Right.
Peter might have those. One thing that I know we were trying to sort out is some of that funding. So some of that was coming from NYSERDA. There was a section of it that we were gonna put up ourselves. And then there was also county funding.
Right.
And county funding, they asked us to sign a contract to secure the county funds. The county contract, it's been resolved, but it had some peculiarities in its wording that were somewhat suspect. Again, that's been hashed out with the county, and so that contract has, again, I'm not sure if it's actually been signed or going to be signed. We might have to do a town resolution at the meeting. But as soon as that is done, then that's the last piece of the funding, and I believe then the next step is the company coming in and doing the work. Yeah. They were gonna provide 24,000, I believe, is the number of the county,
Yeah,
mid-20s, something like that.
something like that. Okay, thanks. All right. Well, shall we continue with our discussion of this topic instead of going back to the beginning?
Sure.
I don't. I don't remember, I do remember that we did not have this printed, Olive did. We had the cards printed for last year's birthday celebration, which I don't have with me. And Maya handled that. It was very quick, within a week. So we'll have to ask Maya the name of that printer. And I may have it in
I'm trying to remember, it's
some of my notes about that birthday event. Yeah. It was a common internet, So in terms of this event, the actual public event, we have to think about the food. And Michael Chaffee offered to provide the food, and I wondered if you might be responsible for talking to him about it.
Sure.
Just find out what it is, what we need to do, what we need to provide in terms of plates, whatever, I don't know, how it would work. I mean, it will be in this room, so, and they will be using the screen for the presentation. Well, I don't think anybody will be sitting up here, and that, maybe we can put some tables in the back for the food. I don't know. Sounds good.
Well, at the kickoff for the comprehensive plans
Yes,
committee,
that's right.
there were food tables around that side at least. Maybe there was something over here and they were using the screen.
Okay. What did they do with all the chairs?
They were here. I think
I
that
think they moved them.
they just moved a few of them on the
Okay.
side.
All right.
There's a table you
Yeah,
can see leading up
yeah,
against the
there
wall.
is a table there.
Okay. As far as the mailing is concerned, it's just tedious. But
They'll all come and collate
we'll all
somewhere.
come to my house and do it. It's so much fun. All right, well, we'll continue working on this. Thank you, Robert. And the second meeting that we were thinking about was related to fire. And I have made some inquiries about that. I haven't completed all my inquiries, but I have reached out to our forest ranger. And I have talked to a member of the Pine Hill Fire Department. And everyone seems to think that Brian Perez, who is Chuck Perez's son, who works for the DEC and is trained as a wildland fire person, is the person to give a short talk about it. But our forest, what I also learned from a member of the Big Indian Fire Department is that they don't have any role in fighting woodland fires. They are backup. They just bring the truck up, the pump truck, with the water. And according to the man I spoke to, whose name I can't think of right now, when there was the fire on Route 42 last fall, he said the county has a team on call all the time, and they notify the team, and the team shows up really fast, and they have a whole van full of radios and drones and other equipment, and they went right to work. And the same with the Peekamoose fire. They and the forest rangers, I think, fought that. And Big Indian Fire Company just took its pump truck up there to provide water. So the local firemen are not trained and do not have equipment to work on woodland fires. So they are sort of, as I say, support.
Is this county organization under DEC?
No, the county is under the Office of Emergency Management in the county, I think. But we will find out more about this and see if Brian would be willing to speak. I also talked to Catskill Forest Association, who, Ryan Trapani, and he's willing to come and talk. They don't really have a lot of information about what to do or not do. It's kind of obvious if you don't have trees right around your house and if you have a grassy buffer, you're safer than if you don't. And they have these things called ladders. Well, a ladder is something that the fire can climb up. So a bush planted at the base of your house is a ladder. So it can lead fire into the structure. Decks are not, with flammable materials are not suggested. So, I mean, these things are kind of, I don't know, this is information that we really need to present to the public. I don't know how much of it is things that people can actually do on their own, you know? But I'll
I
see.
think it would be interesting, because, I mean, we may know that, but some other people might not know that they're not supposed to have brush near the house and things like that.
Yeah.
Even if it was like a small segment of like, what can homeowners do? But then I also thought, and I don't know who would do this, or Catskill Forest Association could, for people who have woodland as part of their property, are there things that we can be doing in our woodlands to clean them up a little bit, or, you know, are there any recommendations around that? And is there anyone, you know, who could speak to that?
I think the leaves on the floor are one of the biggest fire
There's
dangers.
so many fallen trees.
Mm.
I mean, because of all the erosion from the extreme precipitation. My woodland is like, it's just trees all on top of each other. It is so wild the past 2 years what's happening in our woods. Between the ash trees and just things getting eroded, the roots getting eroded by the streams that come off the mountain. So I just think it might be, if there is someone who speaks to that, just what people could be doing.
Okay, well, that's a good question, and that's the kind of thing these people would be able to answer, so.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that for this fire meeting, maybe we would just invite these people to come to one of our regular meetings and not serve food and not have it be quite as elaborate.
So not have a second one, just have the one?
Well, that's the second one, but it's a different format, you know, it's
Oh,
not
yes.
quite as formal. You know, I don't expect these people are gonna be using PowerPoint. But I think it would be really good for people to meet Cameron Sweeney, he's our forest ranger, and to meet, in the past, the forest rangers trained local fire departments for woodland fires. I don't know if they do that anymore. I have to find that out when I talk to Cameron.
Would you still want to advertise it in the same way with a postcard and everything?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I'll find out more between now and May, our next meeting, and then maybe we can decide. Because you know, we can also announce it at this meeting, you know.
There's also like, and again, I have no idea who would speak, but these things I have to look around, but there are like Native American methods of sort of cleaning woods.
Wexler is the fellow.
Yeah.
Remember we sat on that,
Zoom.
that
Yes.
Zoom?
Yes, I was just trying to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't Carrie Institute, but there has been a Zoom that
Yes.
obviously Karen and I both
I
attended.
think I was at that too, actually. Yeah, yeah. I was like
It's
very
fascinating.
vaguely remembering that, yeah.
But the Carrie Institute may have like in their, you know, library of Zooms that you can probably re-watch. It might have been the Carrie Institute. Maybe it was.
Don't remember the
I was just
organization.
trying to look it up on my calendar, but.
Well, if you can look it up
Yeah.
and get back to
Yeah,
us,
yeah, yeah.
let us know what it is.
But I think there was something else coming up about that same issue about control burning and native practices.
Right.
So I'll try to find out
Okay,
what it is.
yeah, thank you. We'll just keep
But
our eyes.
Control burning, Nicole.
What's that?
Control burning.
Control burning, yeah, that was
Yeah.
something
And
we
that
talked
scares
about.
me a little bit too.
Yes, it is scary.
I don't know if we want people doing that in a way.
No,
but
no,
just
we
some-
don't.
Oh, no, we
No,
don't.
no, no, no. Control burning is not for the homeowner.
Yeah, but just some tips for homeowners that can help, because they help these
You
woodlands.
remember Donald Trump said those people in Norway rake the woods, or was it Norway? I
Well,
don't know.
that's not
No,
good for the woods either.
I'm sorry,
so-
I'm joking. I'm
Okay.
just joking.
Yeah, the Germans clean the woods, but, you know, they don't have any regrowth either because they're too busy cleaning.
Or even just ways to be a good citizen during, you know, like for instance, the campground had no signage up, and there was a burn ban, like just the ways of spreading the word, like things that people in the community can do to
Yeah.
help during these fires, because.
Especially like during
communication
hunting
is so-
season last year, when the fire ban was on, we have a group of hunters every year that comes up and they put a big log tent, you know, a long tent, and they burn fires and there's smoke let them know to not be burning fires during that critical moment in time.
And even like basic things people don't realize, like there was a lawnmower that started a fire last summer. People didn't realize because everything was so dry that the lawnmower actually is what started the
Wow.
fire, with throwing cigarettes out the window on 28, you know, and stuff like that, I think could be good. Being that it's like so close to lawnmowers, even simple tips like that that people might not be thinking of, but I wasn't thinking of lawnmowers before that happened. So, great
Well,
start.
the property next to me, we had a fire that was a spark from a logging truck. So anything with a chain, you know, where it can make a spark, and that was in July, you know, it wasn't during a burning ban or even in a particularly dry period.
Maybe like a fire chief could speak to some of the experiences they've had, and then some of the warnings around
Yeah.
those things. So
Yeah.
we'll have, you know, some little situations to look at.
Okay. So keep your eyes and ears open for this. I don't want to get too much into controlled burning. That's, you know, really a specialized subject. But there is a website I would recommend you have a look at. It's called Firewise. And they have kits for homeowners, suggestions, and I don't know how much you can pinch from that. Okay, so should we go back up to the top? Membership items. Love Your Park Day, May 3rd. You know about that, right? I think they're meeting at 9:30 at Parish Field or something like that. Oh, we talked about doing another workshop for the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. And that reminds me of something. When we do these workshops, we get credit for climate smart communities. And this one that we're planning will qualify also. And every time we do a workshop, we have to have a sign-in sheet. So there needs to be somebody who's gonna handle the sign-in sheet. I just wanted to mention that because I don't wanna forget it. You've gotta have a sign-in sheet. That's the evidence that the state needs to give us credit. So I contacted Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. They responded since our last meeting, and they have a catalog of courses. They have Compost 101 and Advanced Composting, both of which we've given before. They have vermicomposting, bokashi composting, cold weather compost, recycle right, which we have done, plastic pollution and its impacts, an eco-friendly home, do-it-yourself cleaners, and more. So, if anybody has any strong feelings about which of these you would like to present, that Pine Hill's gonna host it, which is what we did the last time.
This is the May 28th.
Yeah, May 28th. I think it's a Wednesday, we're not sure. It's in the afternoon from 1 to 3. Anyway, I thought maybe vermicomposting, worms, is complicated. Bokashi composting is really complicated. That's indoors and fermented. So I thought eco-friendly home, do DIY cleaners might be something that people would kind of, you know, save money, make your own chemicals.
Lemon and vinegar, baking
Yeah,
soda,
they
things like
blend
that.
vinegar,
Right.
baking soda, but maybe they have some other alcohol. I don't know.
Right, right.
Yes, yeah.
Borax.
Borax, yeah. I would really like to find out how to make my own eyeglass cleaner.
Vermicomposting is tricky up here just because of the cold,
Yeah,
so it kind of has to be brought inside.
has to be done in the basement.
Where you kill your worms.
Yeah.
But I think there are people here that would be interested in that, but I start
It's,
with.
it's a
It's more
positive.
like universal too, like everybody can get in on that.
Yeah,
And not everybody's gonna wanna compost.
not everybody's gonna want
And
worms.
even soaps, like use, Babs does with the Phoenicia Soap Company, a lot of it, you know, she has shampoos and dish soaps and ways to reduce plastic by using, you know, soap for your hair and your body all in one, or using a dish soap, you know, that's not in a plastic bottle for,
Yeah.
cleaning your dishes, things like that, they're all maybe alternatives or just
Well, they have
upping
a
the
whole
awareness.
kit. That's what they're gonna do.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
that's
might
fine.
be good to invite Bev, so,
Well, yeah, she, I mean, 'cause that's kind of, you
yeah.
know, what she does in terms of her environmental soaps and things.
Okay, I'll tell her that we'll do the DIY cleaners. I had a suggestion, and this is something else that's on the climate smart community. It's about urban tree planting. So Andrew Messenger said that he really felt that we needed more shade trees, that, you know, shade trees have obvious benefits in a warming climate. And why didn't we promote planting the shade trees? And he said, well, I can't see planting them on the streets in Phoenicia. That, you know, that's pretty,
They used to be there.
well,
I mean, when the county took over that road, I mean, old photos
Yeah.
show trees on
Yeah.
Phoenicia Main Street, and they were removed, and I think it would probably require county approval to put them back. It doesn't really, regardless, it would be tricky.
yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I said, well, I don't know where, I said, come up with a place where to put one. And he thought of a place, the Pine Hill Library. He says they needed a big shade tree there.
Big shady in the
Yeah,
I'm trying to picture, I mean, it's, building in my mind is in the middle of the woods, but maybe.
Yeah.
There's a huge walnut tree right over
But
the sidewalk and whatever. I think, I had brought this up before about tree planting in the Phoenicia. I think Pine Hill has more opportunity for street tree planting, but Pine Hill has issues with sidewalk,
Yeah.
protection and a lot of other, issues. But there's more space in Pine Hill. Phoenicia, the sidewalk area is narrow. I think what must have happened was they widened the street
Yeah.
and took away the space where there were
Exactly.
trees. And you'd have to have very unique trees to be
no,
able to plant.
I
in-
agree. I don't think it's feasible. It's a nice idea, but it's not really feasible. So, if I see Andrew, when I see Andrew, I'll find out again where he wants to plant this tree. He offered to pay for half of it. And
A
blah, blah,
tree?
blah. A tree.
Oh.
So, I mean, maybe we could do that.
One
It
spot.
doesn't sound bad, Barb.
But the Pine Hill Community Center could use a tree, but then they have their garden in the front.
They don't have a place for a tree that I know of. They just built that, the parking is the town.
The only place that came to my mind was potentially the Pine Hill Fire Department.
Yeah.
That parcel is relatively large, and there's this, you know, decent amount of grass in a couple of spots. That's where I thought you were gonna say. I don't know.
That could be a leach field too, I don't know.
I think it is a leach field, but that might make the tree go faster, I'm sure, you know, like.
You can't plant trees on a leach field. Okay, let's think about that. Compost update, Nicole, you wanna bring us up to date on the compost?
Yes, so I have, James has handed off the compost program to me. Which is kind of crazy, And so I've been doing it since March 29th. We made a few changes because the tubs are extremely heavy when they are full and I could not get them off the ground. So, Joe, what's his name? Joe is putting the lid on about halfway through and then I come down and I pick them up when they're halfway through and if he doesn't get to it, then I just shovel it out. Anyway, so that's one change we've made. We've also, not doing fish chicken anymore, because my first pickup, James had said, oh, it's about 5%, which is what his experience was. My first pickup was like 6 chicken cutlets, all this ground beef. It looked like someone just like emptied their freezer, and it was pretty gross and very, very smelly. So I can't really have that on my property with the bears. So far so good. I've got the setup, I've got ammonia around it. The bears, one bear checked it out, left it alone, so I'm hoping that that continues, and if not, then we can try electric fence. But so far it's been going great. I'm learning a lot. It's a lot of work, but it's, I really like it.
You are gonna be so strong.
Oh my God, I was like, this is not free soil. This is a lot of work. No, but it's great, and it's been really fun. I mean, I go down there pretty often right now, and it's been really great talking to people about it, and as you all already know, the community loves it. They're so thankful we're doing it. There are people that are putting a lot of plastic bags and compost bags in there, which I'm trying to, and Joe has been an amazing advocate for us, and they kind of argue with him about it a little bit, I think, and they're like, no, it's compostable, you can put it in there. And so I talked to him the other day and I said, it's on the website, feel free to, continue telling him that, and I'm going down occasionally like, hey, what you got in there? Don't eat. But it's going well so far, so, yeah.
It's great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was so wonderful that we can continue to offer this.
So, yeah.
I guess I saw the new signage, but I did not see, does it say no plastic bags?
The signage is for the update, because we used to allow fish, chicken, and
Right.
beef.
Right.
So the signs are for the update. I didn't want to put everything that's already on the website. So if it continues, then maybe I will, I was even thinking we could, and I don't know if we have the funds for this, but make a magnet that sticks on it, because the signs are already getting messed up from the rain and everything.
Sure.
Like maybe a magnet that has like everything that's supposed to be on there, and put them on all of the metal bin there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
but
that's good.
so far so good.
And Peter is going to buy some more buckets.
Actually, if he hasn't done that already, I would love to give him the link to the ones that James recommends.
Well, would you go ahead and do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I could just reply to that email with it.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I reminded him once, but I don't know if he's done it. Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan. On Wednesday, March 19th, the comprehensive planning meeting with the steering committee met to review the results of the survey that was open to the Shandaken residents. They had about 400 responses, and the purpose of our meeting was actually to go through and read the responses. We broke up in groups by question, and mostly in partners, pairs, to review all the responses and then to basically do like a qualitative assessment of the different topics and issues that were brought up on the questionnaire. Once that was completed, we went around the room and each group shared the results of their review of those questions and the responses, and summarized the main high points. And I believe the next steps will be for each group volunteered on different topics. So for example, Sophie and I are going to do nutrition and food access for Shandaken. So each one had a different topic that they will be addressing as we go along and continue in the process of the information gathering. And that's, basically where we are at this point. So I haven't heard anything other than, I got an email today about my topic, and so that's all I have right now to report. But it was very successful. I was very enthusiastic. I think people are very engaged in really, making the commitment and taking the time to address the issues to create that comprehensive plan that really reflects, the desires of the town residents. So it's a very encouraging process, I have to say. And that's it. So I'll have more. I don't know when the next meeting is, but as soon as I find out, I will report back. And
Well, I think before too much further down the road, they will be having public meetings to which the town
they
will
were
be.
talking about a location for another meeting, for a public meeting. I don't think there's been a date set. I believe the next meeting they're going to try to have in Phoenicia, and looking for a location was one of the topics of where to have it, whether we could do it at Parish Hall again, or there was another business owner that would be able to handle the number of people that might be coming and participating. So I think that's still to be determined. I haven't heard anything on that.
Great. The rest of these items, we don't really know too much more about, right?
Well, pollinator pathway and
Yeah.
dark sky community, these are well, pollinator pathway, I was just actually speaking to Peter about because, on Olivery Road, there's been a buyback of several houses for the flood, purchase from DEP. And, thank you. I asked Peter about possibly who owned the property and if there was any way to do some native planting there instead of just having fields of mugwort and potentially knotweed. And he said the town does own certain parcels of those properties. And at least my daughter and I at this point are going to do some native planting and seed sowing, and I'm trying to get some other neighbors in the neighborhood involved. I don't know whether that can be registered as part of the pollinator pathway or not, but nonetheless, that's our intention. And
Great.
we have to just look at the tax map and figure out exactly which parcels are town-owned and which are DEP-owned, because there's, but I'm also gonna talk to Aaron Bennett and see about the DEP parcels
Yeah.
and whether we can just continue on, because it's just gonna turn into
Yeah.
another garlic mustard, mugwort, knotweed. Dark sky community, well, starting today is International Dark Sky Week. And let me see, but I'm trying to get a neighbor of mine who's totally into dark sky stuff to maybe get involved, but nonetheless, I'm attempting to put together some information for at least my local resort areas to give them the information to make them potentially dark sky locations and be on a registry, which I think would, well, other than Full Moon because they're kind of private, but like Urban Cowboy, East Wind, I think it will be an attractant for more tourism for their business to become part of the registry like that. And then maybe we can increase that.
Yeah. Great.
So that's my report.
Thank you.
Can I ask a
Oh.
question about pollinator pathway
Yeah.
and just Phoenicia? Are there any areas down there where we can plant into that are
In
like
Phoenicia?
for the public? Yeah, like around where the bridge is there, like who owns that property there?
Simpson Mini
Which
Park?
bridge are you talking about?
You mean by the gazebo and stuff?
I don't know what it's called.
I think you might mean Simpson Mini Park.
I guess
Simpson
so,
Mini
right,
Park.
right over the bridge, yeah, where they do the duck release,
Yep.
the duck
That's
release.
town.
That's town-owned.
Town property.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be so beautiful, and as far as like a shade tree or a red bud or like something beautiful that
There are
early
plenty of
pollinators.
trees there.
There are trees, I mean, my first thought when I looked at it the other day was, we could do like beautiful perennial pollinator garden here with coneflowers and all kinds of hyssop and all the deer resistant stuff would be beautiful there. And then I was looking at like the pharmacy, and he's got his little plot right out front. I'm like, oh, I just want to go to these businesses and just say, we'll do it. Like, we'll figure it out. You just have to water it, which, you know, is
Yeah.
a
And
fee
maybe
these
pay
days,
for
but-
some of the plant material.
Yeah, maybe a little. I don't know what the funding's like for this kind of thing, but I mean, I would love to see, and that was one of the things that came up in the last comprehensive plan meeting. I had my two topics where it was a lot of beautification and restoration of Phoenicia. You know, one of all, they want beauty down there. They also talked about the vacant stores, storefronts, and all of that. But just on the pollinator pathway front, it seems like there's a lot that we could do down there. Maybe we don't have room for trees, but we could do some beautiful gardens down there. And we're all really into that, so I mean, you know.
So, one, full disclosure, that's right across from my house, so I would love it. So I think procedurally, so I mean, the nice thing is that that is a town parcel. You know, the only, you know, 2 points that come to mind of mindfulness, one, of course, it's more or less mowed and maintained by the highway department, so, you know, making sure that it's not causing them any trouble, which I wouldn't expect, but like that's, you know, comes to mind. And then there is, not just telephone poles, but there is a fairly extensive sort of like electrical pole there, so that I imagine you probably need NICEAG access. So again, I don't think that means much other than your garden probably has to stay away from those specific, you know, kind of poles and locations. I think probably procedurally, conversation is best is, one, making that proposal sort of as concrete as possible. You know, who is willing to do what and more or less where. So that could be as simple as we 3 people will agree to do a 3 by 5 foot plot placed roughly here. And then I would take that to the Parks Committee, which is, you know, kind of oversees, of course, all the parks. I don't expect you would have any negative feedback. I think they would probably say, yeah, we love this, endorse it. But you know, procedurally, again, I think it's worth running past it, and they would have more knowledge of, again, if there was any access issue or anything that the highway department might particularly go. I don't necessarily think that needs anything more than narrow and premature. Unless there was sort of like a funding request, in which case that would go to the town board. And again, a resolution indicating, you know, we authorize these 3 people to do a pollinator garden in this, you know, again, exactly what I said there. I think that would probably pass handily. I don't think, like I said, I don't think there's any barriers to entry, really. I don't think there would be any particular opposition. I think it's just defining exactly what it is and then talking to a couple of groups along the way. And I think it's fantastic. I think it'd be great.
And then we would just have to figure out upkeep, because watering is a big deal. I mean, especially with the weather that we're getting in the summer and stuff, so, you know, I don't know if that's a rotating commitment between the willing parties or what, but,
Some of that you could probably hash out, like, you know, individually. I don't think whatever came to the town necessarily needs to be that specific, but obviously in order for it to be successful,
yeah.
you have to figure out how you're gonna actually work it.
Yeah.
So making sure that your idea is again, sort of concrete enough to be successful is probably your first step. And then I think folks will just say, yeah, that's a great idea. The gazebo itself, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is in part maintained by Rotary, I think.
It's what?
In part maintained by Rotary.
Oh.
I believe like the planter boxes on the gazebo itself, and there's also some daffodils and things like that, I think are planted by Rotary. So all that is to say is, again, just, you know, make sure we don't have 2 people, you know, hit the same thing, right?
Right.
So you know, that's something I think Parks Committee would say, like, oh yeah, we want to just make sure you're over here because they're already planting over there, type of a situation, you know. I think that's a great idea. Like I said,
Maybe
again,
we start
right
there.
across from my house.
Yeah, we could start there and see how that goes, and then we could go through Phoenician.
Your seeds accidentally
I mean,
flew through the
we
middle of
can
my
talk
yard,
to
I'm
the
not gonna
Phoenician
complain,
Business
so.
Association. I mean, you know, that might be a place to start too.
Yeah.
I do programs at Simpson Mini Park for the library in the summer. Macro invertebrate programs. Kids go down to the creek, we set up tables, and they collect samples of macroinvertebrates. Aaron Bennett runs the program, they bring them up and we identify them and talk about what these particular insects can tell you about water quality, why they're important, what fish eat, all that kind of stuff. It's a very cool little exercise. And if you plant too many flowers there, I won't have room for the tables.
So maybe I spoke too soon about their big no.
There's also access down to the creek. We don't want to plant completely covering the stream bank because
Well, the stream bank is completely covered with
Not-
knotweed.
yeah.
Even
So-
if we just did something small, right up front with some native plants
Yeah.
and a pollinator pathway sign.
Yeah.
I think that would be so nice, and then we
Yeah.
can program at the library or something
Yeah.
for.
It's,
Well,
it's
a-
worth probably
it's
looking at the
a-
parcel viewer, because that parcel extends actually, I think, a little bit further than you might realize.
Yeah.
Because of course it starts at the bridge, and then it goes past the entirety of my house, and then continues past the house to, so I mean, that's almost, that might be 120 feet or something
Yeah.
like that. I'm sure
Yeah.
a nominal garden could be spaced somewhere.
Or two.
It's what you're signing yourselves up for, so, you know.
But that's really, and that ties right in with with what we're working on with Maya. I'm sorry, I'm completely blanking on
Yeah.
the name of the project that we're
Right.
working on together.
The community action.
Community action plan.
Well, the library has a pretty fantastic native plant garden behind it.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's bona fide, Yeah, I mean, it's a great one. So, yeah, and it looks beautiful. Yeah. So if we were to do any kind of pollinator pathway where we could, make a map and show there's this, there's that, there's this, there's that, but, right now we don't have enough to kind
I
of
mean,
create a trail.
part of the town meeting that was preceding this one was a conversation, and this is still many steps away, but there is some movement towards the town taking ownership of parish field.
Yeah.
And again, that hasn't happened yet, but there's indications that we're moving in that direction, and obviously that would become that's a very large space that could be used in a whole bunch of different ways. Tough right now because it's not town owned, and so.
Yeah.
There's a place for a shade tree.
Well, they like to play baseball, but.
Not somewhere, not right in the middle.
The pitcher's mound.
Yeah. Forgot what I was gonna say. All right, oh, I know, Glenbrook Park, they're gonna make that into a pollinator garden
Yeah.
when they do the landscaping, so that would be another example, if we want examples. Yeah.
If we get all these done, we'll have a lovely little map, we could do like a garden tour day or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pine Community Center has a small one behind it as well.
That's great.
And the library also, BZ has a small pollinator garden there too.
Yeah, also in Montclair, they used to have a day where people who had gardens would open their gardens up and they would have, it's like a self-guided tour. So maybe something similar, if we could engage residents who may have gardens that would be willing
We used to have that.
to
We used to
participate,
do
yeah,
that.
kind of a.
Somebody organized it, and it was a fundraiser for something.
Right, so maybe
Yeah.
as we build on this idea, it's a great way to include.
Marvella?
I think Darren might have done something like that a while ago.
Yeah, Susan Robertson, I think, was part of it. Anyway, I think she organized it, Anything else?
Celebrate International Dark Sky Week and Earth Day tomorrow.
Yeah. Earth Day tomorrow. At 9, on CBS News tomorrow, this journalist contacted the library. His name is David Schechter. And I don't watch morning news on CBS, but there's Gail somebody, I could look it up here. I'll look it up before we leave. And they wanted a photograph of fly fishing. They wanted a photo actually of, old gnarly men with lots of fish. Well, we didn't have that. And anyway, that's not legal anymore, so we wouldn't have given it to them. But they are using a photo, and they're gonna talk about the angling collection in the library. Yeah, in the morning news.
Very cool,
Yeah.
deservedly so.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
And a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.